Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our latest stories. Go away. The girl's voice cracked, sharp and trembling, as she stared down the black dog standing just feet away. Its ears were lowered, tail still, body tense but unmoving, waiting. She couldn't bring herself to look into its eyes, those eyes, because if she did, she might remember something she'd spent over a year trying to forget. 9-year-old Anna Bennett stood frozen on the sidewalk outside the Redwood Hollow Library, her fists clenched and her heart pounding. The dog didn't bark, didn't growl. It simply whimpered, a sound so heartbreakingly familiar that it knocked the breath out of her chest. But how could it be? How could something lost return just like that? To understand that moment, the fear, the ache, the impossible recognition, we have to go back. Back to the town where Anna's story began. In the quiet corners of Redwood Hollow, nothing stays secret for long. Tucked between the rolling foothills of a national preserve and the winding river that carved its way through Montana's forested land, the town had a memory sharper than any one person. If someone painted their fence or got a new haircut, chances were the news would reach the local diner before the paint dried or the hair settled. Among the 2,500 people who called Redwood Hollow home was a girl named Anna Bennett. At 9 years old, she was known for her quiet smile, her love of books, and the way she never quite looked directly at dogs anymore, not since the day everything changed. Anna lived with her mother Claire, a nurse at the town's medical center, and her father Daniel, a seasoned ranger who knew every trail and shadow in the surrounding forest. They lived in a white clapboard house at the end of Juniper Lane, where the backyard melted into the edge of the wilderness. It was the kind of home built for childhood memories, late-night stargazing, weekend pancakes, and for 3 years, the companionship of a remarkable dog named Bunny. Bunny wasn't just a pet. Given to Anna on her 6th birthday, the German Shepherd had been her shadow, her confidant, and her protector. They grew up side by side, inseparable. And then one day, without warning, Bunny was gone, and the world Anna knew slipped quietly out of place. Bunny had arrived on Anna's 6th birthday, a surprise wrapped in a red bow and the warm scent of puppy fur. Daniel had driven 3 hours to pick him up from a reputable breeder just outside Helena, wanting only the best for his daughter. From the moment Anna laid eyes on the German Shepherd pup, their connection was instant. It was as if some quiet understanding had passed between girl and dog without a word spoken. They became inseparable. Bunny followed Anna through the halls of their home, waited by the door when she went to school, and curled at her feet while she read aloud in the evenings. At night, he lay at the foot of her bed, standing guard in the dark with soft breaths and twitching paws. Claire, watching them from the kitchen window, quietly marveled at how much calmer, more confident her daughter had become since Bunny's arrival. Before Bunny, Anna's world had been quiet, too quiet. With both of her parents working long hours, much of her time was spent in front of the television watching cartoons. She'd already memorized and listening to the house creak. With stillness, she rarely played outside, and conversations with other children were awkward and brief, but Bunny changed a lot. That with him around, laughter filled the house. Anna smiled more, talked more, and even made a few new friends in the neighborhood. Bunny didn't just bring companionship. He brought joy, routine, and a kind of lightness that had been missing for too long. He was more than a pet. He was a companion, a guardian, a piece of Anna's soul made tangible, and then without warning that presence vanished. A single moment of panic hadn't in 3 years of love and left behind an emptiness that even time had struggled to fill. It had been a perfect Saturday morning, the kind Redwood Hollow did. Best cool air warmed gently by the pine trees, swaying in a lazy breezebird song echoing through the forest edge. Daniel had a rare day off and suggested a family hike along the southern trails of the nature preserve. Bunny needs the exercise, he had said, watching the German Shepherd perk up at sound of his name, and so does our girl. Anna packed her tiny backpack with trail mix and her favorite book while Claire prepared sandwiches and filled water bottles. Bunny waited by Theodore, leash in mouth, tail sweeping exitly. The hike began like all feathers. Laugher on the trail, bunny eating. The way Anna racing to keep up. They were only an hour in when it happened. A sudden deafening crack ripped through the forest, the sound of a controlled detonation, later explained by Park Service as part of a rockfall prevention project, harmless in intent but terrifying in volume. Bunny froze and bolted. Anna screamed his name, wrapping her small hands around Felish, trying to hold on, but she was 9 and he was over 70 pounds of instinct and fair. The leash burned across her palms before slipping free. Bunny disappeared into the trees, leash trailing like a ribbon of heartbreak behind him. They searched for hours first together, then split up, calling until their voices gave out. By sunset, the ranger station had issued an alert. That night, flashlights danced between trees as half the town joined in, but no trace of Bunny was found. Anna blamed herself. No one else did, but it didn't matter. The next morning she refused breakfast. That night she left the back door cracked open for weeks after she sat by the window at dusk whispering his name into the dark. Bunny wasn't just Anna's dog, he belonged to the whole town in a quiet, unspoken way. Locals remembered him sitting patiently outside the bakery or walking Anna home from the library, so when he went missing, Redwood Hollow responded. Flyers went up in every shop window. Neighbors left food out near their fences. Volunteers walked the forest trails with flashlights, calling his name into the dark. Meanwhile, Anna's family searched for weeks, then months. Daniel come the woods before and after work, and Claire refused to take down the leash hanging by the door. Something inside Anna changed the day. Bunny vanished. The brightness in her eyes dulled. Her laughter, once so frequent, became rarer than echoes of joy that faded too fast. Withdrew, curling in on herself like if pages of her books left too long in sun. But it was dogs. Any dog. Fat Beckham. The hardest part, she couldn't look at them, whether walking through Thepperk or passing the shelter downtown. Anna turned her face away. Golden retrievers, Labradors, terriers, every wagging tail felt like a dagger. Each glance reminded her of Bunny, his weight beside her, the soft huff of his breathes. He slept the way his ears perked when she whispered. The sight of a leash in someone else's hand made her throated, and she didn't hate other dogs, but seeing them hurt too much, it was like staring at a ghost, one she couldn't talk to, couldn't touch, couldn't bring back. Bunny didn't vanish into the wild as Severione had feared. He had been taken stolen by people who saw dogs not as companions, but as commodities. A dark van parked just off the trail had waited 4 hours. When Bunny ran frightened and disoriented, he ran straight into their trap. The facility wasn't far, hidden in a clearing surrounded by thick brush and a perimeter fence. On the surface, it looked like a farm shed, but inside it was a network of cages, training yards, and cold calculated cruelty. Bunny was one of the lucky ones, if such a word could apply. He was strong, healthy, and obedient. Everything they wanted, but when hadn't respond to commands, when hair fused food. When he lay still and silent for hours, they turned to force. He was beaten, shocked, deprived of rest. His ribs began to show, scars formed where fur used to grow, but he never lashed out, never growled. He simply endured. Everyday handlers brought dogs into the training ring. They taught them to attack, to chase, to obey brutal orders. Bunny watched it all with dull, grieving eyes, and when it was his turn, he laid down instead of lunging, whimpered instead. Off biting, he tried to escape 3 times since through a weak panel in the kennel, once by slipping a gate during feeding, once by sheer strength. Each time he was caught, each time he was punished. But the thought that kept him going through hunger, through pain, was Anna, the little girl with the gentle voice and fiendless trust. Her scent still lived in the collar. They hadn't bothered to remove her memory, still burned behind his eyes. He didn't know when he didn't know how, but Bunny would find his way back. He had to, because the only place that made sense was wherever Anna was. It happened during a health inspection on every few months. A mobile vet unit visited the compound, part of a fake front to make the operation seem legitimate. Dogs were weighed, examined, photographed. The handlers were more distracted than usual. Busy talking logistics, focused on papers and schedules. Bunny sensed it. The moment the kennel gate clicked open, something inside him shifted. Pain still lived in his muscles. Scars still burned across his back, but instinct roared louder. The handler turned his back for a second. That was all he needed. Bunny surged forward. He didn't aim, he didn't think. Heron through a narrow gap between vents, across gravel, under a loose section. Offense shouts echoed behind him. Boots thundered on the ground, but Bunny didn't stop. His lungs burned, his legs threatened to give out, but he didn't stop. Not even once did he look back. Trees blurred past as he tore through brush and shadow, every inch of him. But he kept going, driven by something no one could train out of him. Love. Bunny didn't know exactly where he was going, but his heart did. It pointed north, toward the only place he had ever truly belonged, toward the scent of pine and the faint memory of a girl's hand pressed gently behind his ears. He wasn't running from something, he was running to something back in Redwood Hollow. Something began to stir. It started subtly, scratches on fences, paw prints too large for any local strays. Tufts off black and tan fur caught on low branches. Daniel noticed first. He brushed it off at first, blaming coyotes or a passing bear, but the tracks circled too close to home, and always. They stopped just before reaching the house. Then came the noises. Soft padding sounds at night, a low whimper beneath the wind. Once Claire's where she heard something scratch at the back door, only to find nothing there. But a small indentation in the dirt. Anna didn't say much, but her eyes lingered longer on the backyard. Now she'd catch herself listening, tilting her head as if hoping to hear something she couldn't explain. The silence held weight again, familiar and strange. All at once, people in town whispered to a few, claimed to have seen a dog, large, fast, ghost-like, darting across the edge of the forest. Some said it was just a shadow, others weren't so sure. One evening Daniel found a perfect paw print at the edge of their porch. He didn't speak, just looked at it for a long time, then gently swept it away like it was something sacred. Meantonly for them, no one knew what to believe, but something had returned to Redwood Hollow, and it was waiting. It happened on a Tuesday. Anna was walking home from the library, a new book clutched to her chest, her head bowed against the wind. Juniper leaves scattered across the sidewalk, brushing her sneakers. She was halfway down Maple Street when she felt it, that heavy, quiet presence. She looked up. There, standing 10 feet away, was a large black and tan dog, matted fur ribs showing, eyes locked on hers with something that felt ancient and familiar. Anna froze, her breath caught in her throat. Her heart knew better, her mind could catch up, but fear rushed in first. No, she shouted, voice cracking, go away. She stepped back, shaking, arms tight around her. Book Thedig whimpered, not in fear, but in recognition. It tilted its head just slightly, the way Bunny used to do when Anna read aloud. Then softly it made a sound, 2 short huffs and a low whine, a sound Anna hadn't heard in over a year, a sound that lived only in memory. Shestered, her pulse thundered, her knees trembled. Then slowly she stepped forward. Bunny, her voice cracked again, but this time not from fear, from hope. The dog didn't move, it only looked at her, ice-wide tail still, and then Anna ran to him. She dropped her book, wrapped her arms around his neck, and sobbed into his fur. Bunny whined again, pressing into her his, but he trembled with exhaustion. Hers with joy. On a quiet street under the yellowing trees, girl and dog found each other again. Bunny was home. Anna brought them inside, whispering his name like a prayer. Claire gasped when she saw them at the door, rushing forward with tears already in her eyes. Daniel stood still for a long second, then dropped to his knees and wrapped them both in his arms. Bunny was thinner, bruised, with small scars under his fur, but his eyes were olive, soft and alert. Never leaving Anna's face over the next few days, Heberly left her side. He slept beside her again, his breathing slow and steady, the rhythm she had missed more than she realized. Claire noticed the marks, first raised skin along his ribs and a strange number tattooed near his inner leg. Daniel, suspicious, made calls to fellow rangers and animal control, but it was Bunny, with unwavering determination, what guided them through the dense woods, his instincts leading them closer to the hidden truth. One morning, Daniel took Hyman a short walk through the woods behind their house. Bunny pulled at the leash, not randomly, but with purpose. Half allowed a scent stopping at broken branches, disturbed soil after 3 days, all following his lead. Bunny stopped at a dense patch of forest beneath the brush. They found tire tracks, hidden fencing, proof of something buried in plain sight. Authorities were called, police raided area days later and uncovered a hidden illegal dog training facility. His tools, dogs wounded, scared, but alive. Thanks to Bunny's return and his instinct, they exposed a cruelty that had gone unseen for years. Dozens of stolen pets were identified and reunited with their families in the heart of Redwood Hollow. Justice began with one dog's quiet determination. Redwood Hollow Hoddleways. Been close, but what happened? Fado Tom brought the town even closer. A week after the raid, the mayor called a community gathering in the town square, not for politics, not for ceremony, but for Bunny. Children held handmade sign, shop owners brought treats. One family made a banner that read, "Welcome home, hero." Bunny, freshly bathed but still healing, sat quietly by. Anna's side tail wagging gently, the mayor knelt and placed a needle around Bunny's neck. "For bravery," she said simply. The crowd erupted into heartfelt applause, tears glistening in many eyes as they honored the bravery of their four-legged hero. Bunny blinked at the noise, then turned to nuzzle on his arm. That day, Bunny became more than just a dog. He was a symbol of loyalty, of courage, of Febin between hearts that refused to forget each other. His story spread beyond town borders, inspiring others to speak up, search longer, and believe harder in a place where everyone once knew each other's stories. Bunny added a new chapter, one that would be told for generations, and in the center of it, all surrounded by love, stood a girl and her dog together again. Time passed as it always does. Bunny grew older, his muzzle silvered, his steps slower, but hair remained. Anna's shadow padding visited her through middle school, high school, even into her college visits. He no longer chased balls or ran long trails, but he stayed close, always watching, always listening. Anna blossomed. She met friends, laughed easily again, and learned to love without fear. Bunny had given her that a way back to herself. When the day came that Bunny could no longer rise from his bed, Anna lay beside him on Pfeffler, her arms around his chest, her cheek against his fur. He went peacefully in the home he had fought so hard to return to, surrounded by the people who had never stopped waiting. Redwood Hollow held another gathering that week. They planted a tree in the town square and placed a small bronze plaque beneath it for Bunny, who came home. The years that followed were quieter, but not empty. The story of Bunny and Anna became part of town's history, told in school, shared in family dinners, whispered in bedtime stories, and sometimes when Thuan rustled through the pine trees just right, people swore they could hear a soft bark and the faintest echo of paws on old wooden floors.